Here we go. Good evening and welcome to the City Council, Norman Utilities Authority, Norman Municipal Authority, and Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority meeting of March 14th, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Ball.
Here.
Councilmember Schuler. Here. Councilmember Lynn.
Definitely here, all the way through July.
Councilmember Grant.
Here.
Councilmember Tortorello.
Here.
Councilmember Foreman. Here. Councilmember Holman.
Here.
Councilmember Peacock is absent, and Mayor Heikela.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1, consideration of City Council study session minutes of November 29th, 2022. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the minutes. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to approve the minutes passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a proclamation proclaiming March 18th, 2023 as Public Transit Professional Appreciation Day in the city of Norman. I need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
The motion on the floor is to to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast. Acknowledged receipt passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll move down there to do the proclamation. Do we have?
Taylor and the whole
Taylor
group
and-
at the back.
Okay, you got a whole group in the back of that? I'll stay up here and you guys. Little logistical problem there. A proclamation of the mayor of the city of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming March 18th, 2023 as Public Transit Professional Appreciation Day in the city of Norman. Whereas public transit benefits everyone in the city of Norman by reducing traffic and parking congestion, improving air quality, and making our city more equitable and accessible to all by getting people where they need to go from work and to school, to medical appointments, grocery stores, and other essential services. And whereas both City of Norman and Embark public transit professionals manage a fleet of vehicles each day, maintain on-time route performance, assist residents in understanding and using the transit system, and play an integral role in economic development and driving the community of Norman forward. And whereas the duty of an Embark Norman bus operator is to safely maneuver transit vehicles through unpredictable traffic, tough weather, and very tight spaces, while exercising caution and following the laws of the road to maximize the safety of their passengers and serving as upstanding examples of safety, courtesy, discipline, and effective communication as they perform their duties each day. And whereas the City of Norman Fleet Transit Maintenance staff provide expertise in the preventive maintenance and upkeep of fleet buses, vans, and shuttles for the safety of customers, visitors, and the community. And whereas the Embark support staff provide excellence in customer service, vehicle cleaning, fueling, and to ensure the integral role of public transit to the transportation of residents and visitors of the city. And whereas the City of Norman Transit administrative staff work diligently on improvements to the city's transit system, including vehicle procurement, grant management, and service changes. And whereas the City of Norman public transit vehicles travel in excess of 400,000 miles and facilitate more than 250,000 passenger trips annually in Norman. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 18th, as Public Transit Professional Appreciation Day in the City of Norman, invite members of the public to share their appreciation for these professionals and make use of Embark Norman services past this day. Taylor, let me give you this proclamation. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I regret that this is our first proclamation like this, even though we've been operating the service for almost 4 years now. So with that, I have about 4 years worth of remarks to make, if you can bear with me. No, I do have a little bit of words I want to say. I want to bring up some people for you guys to meet, and then maybe we can get a photo with the proclamation afterwards with those folks. But I want to rehash the work that we've done the last 4 years, nearly 4 years, really quick under your leadership and previous council leadership and city administrative leadership. First, we didn't miss a day of service during the transition of service. Again, that was kind of something we took for granted, but it was a day-by-day thing for a little bit there. We also updated our long-range plan. Another big undertaking, we secured grant funding and started procuring vehicles, which we are starting to see the fruit of that this year. And we started implementing our first major route changes in probably the last 2 to 3 decades, which should come to fruition later this year. And that includes a new city transit center and about 80 bus stops. So in quick summary, in the last 4 years, we've stood up a transit program, and I feel like we've done a great deal of work to make it better and make vast improvements. Now, you may be thinking that this isn't the time to talk about all the cool things that we're doing with transit, that this is supposed to be about the professionals, but I wanted to rehash those things because it really is because of those professionals that we've been able to accomplish so much and not miss days of service and to keep buses on the road. So between the city and Embark, I hope you know, before now, but getting to meet some of these folks, that we've built a great transit team. And I'd like to quickly introduce you to some of those. So I'm going to ask those that I've spoken to previously to come up. All of you guys.
Come on down.
Including you, JT. So I'll have them stand here. So I'll first begin with Embark Norman operations. We have 4 operators here. They represent about 35 drivers that work every day to get people in and around Norman. As the proclamation mentions, it is a very difficult job. I find it hard just to drive myself some days and navigate around, but they're having to deal with passengers, they're having to stay on route, staying on time, just a very difficult position. Now, like I said, we have 4 bus operators, and Embark has 4 core pillars that they focus on in the organization. That's be safe, be there, and be open and be kind. So each one of them won that award last year, so that's why we wanted them here representing Embark Norman service. So the first is Benita Francique. She's right there. She's representing Be Safe, which Embark defines as we stay alert and follow the rules, knowing others count on us to keep them safe. Second is Jim Smith, representing Be There, which is defined, we show up with our whole hearts, eager to learn and ready to serve our community and each other. And then third, Clayton Lay, representing Be Open, which means keep our minds open to ideas, people, and possibilities. And then last is Elvin Lowry, representing Be Kind, which is we care about each other and it shows through our words and our actions. Now I'm glossing over these, but these are very big, high standards that we try to strive for as a transit program every day. And each day these people show up to work with those in the back of their mind. And these 4 do a great job representing all those things that I mentioned. The next group I want to mention is a couple that do the maintenance function of our transit program. So we inherited a worn-out fleet. That's why we needed a lot of money at first to start replacing, and we've done a good job of getting grant funds. But our maintenance team has done a great job of keeping those vehicles on the road. And I'd like to recognize JT McCracken there in the back. He represents the team of 4 that keeps these buses moving every day. And then in what I call the wrench turning side, so literally down in the grease, keeping the buses going. And then on the Embark side, JT's a city employee. On the Embark side, we have Mr. Scott Nichols here, and he fuels and washes the buses every night. So he keeps them clean, has them ready to go in the morning for the operators, and makes them look professional every day, him and his team of 3, right? Yeah. So there's about 7 maintenance employees that we have that are represented by these two, and without them, we couldn't keep the transit service going. And then last but not least, we have a team of 3 administrative staff, which I'm a part of, and my other 2, I couldn't get one of them to come here because of prior obligations, so I guess I'll recognize myself. But we do grant management, and we basically collaborate with all these other functions to make sure that we deliver high-quality transit service to the Norman community every day. And there's a lot of employees that aren't here. We've already mentioned the group that these represent, but in Oklahoma City, there's a group behind us on the Embark OKC side that helps us administratively. And then there's a lot here in the city of Norman, such as finance and the communications office, Brenda with the agendas, just everything that we need to do to keep transit functioning, the legal department, all these things touch us and help us deliver transit service. So while not specifically public transit professionals, I feel like it's important to mention them as well. So sorry about all the words, but I felt like it was about 4 years worth of, I wanted to get out there and express my gratitude for all the support that City Council's given us, and make sure you know that we have a great team that's out there delivering service every day. And you see me a lot, but you don't get to see them a lot. So if you'll join me in giving them a round of applause. And I do invite you all and members of the public, anytime even if you're just passing the bus in your own car, just take a moment to think about them and pray for them as they navigate those roads out there. So, Mayor, would you mind if we get a picture with you real quick with the proclamation? Let's see, where's, I assume we're getting a picture. Nice. We'll get, I think Brenda's coming down. Maybe we'll stand over here.
I got one head that's covered up.
Strange photo bomb. Thanks, fellas, appreciate it. Okay. Next item on the agenda is council announcements. Councilmember Ball, would you like to start?
Sure. I just want to say what a great job a lot of the people in my ward have done stepping up with the storm debris removal. I know they're still out there working hard on it, and I've had guys, from my ward to donate water, everything else. Out there at the rodeo grounds, one of them got bit by a scorpion. So there's some hazards that go along with it, but I appreciate all the work that they've done. Since Embark was here, I was recently taken on a tour by Director of Public Works, Mr. O'Leary, and so I actually got to go up to the yard and see what they do. And how much work and everything that goes into it. My dad rides the bus every day, and so he has nothing but amazing things to say for the drivers and how hard they work. So I greatly appreciate that, and I think that's all I have.
Councilmember?
Sure. Definitely want to echo our gratitude and appreciation for our transit staff. I definitely think that 4 years was long overdue. And I will steal Councilmember Holman's thunder just a little bit. If you are interested in the stuff that we're doing, Mr. Holman chairs the Community Planning and Transportation Committee that happens on the 4th Thursday of every month. And some really exciting things are continuing to happen with our transit department. We are getting ready to break ground on our new transit hub, which is super exciting, and will be coming online much sooner than I think any of us really anticipated. So really excited for that, as well as our route changes and some new bus stops and all of that kind of stuff. So look forward to a lot more coming from that. Second, I wanted to highlight the oversight meeting that we had last meeting. I know that I and many other council members have been receiving copious amounts of emails about our emergency shelter and what we are going to do, because that is slated to close if we do not take action at the end of this month. We had a very robust conversation and a presentation from April Heipel, who is the director of Food and Shelter, who is currently running a friend's house. So if anybody is interested in the conversation that council has and kind of what our plans are to move forward with taking action to make sure that the shelter does not close and that it is still operating into the future, you can go ahead and check out that conversation that we had from last week on the YouTube. And then I encourage everybody in Ward 2, as many people know, we are headed into budget season. I know that the leadership team has had some budget retreats on kind of what items are going to be moving forward, but if there are specific things that Ward 2 is interested in making sure that move forward or that, gets appropriated within this next fiscal year, please reach out. My email is ward2@normanok.gov. I would love to hear kind of the things that you are thinking about and priorities for Ward 2. And then finally, just want to highlight, again, our Action Center, which is a fantastic resource for our community members. Our Action Center is kind of that one-stop shop. You can call, you can email to get concerns addressed. I will say that many times they are much faster than council members at being able to turn around information back to residents, because they can kind of filter out whatever needs to be filtered to the appropriate departments and the specific person that works on those issues. So kudos to our Action Center. So you can reach them. Their phone number is 405-366-5396, or you can email them at action.center@normanok.gov. And those are all the announcements I have.
Councilmember?
Well, I have some exciting announcements for the city of Norman. We have launched a foundation in the city of Norman. Some of you might remember, it's called the Jarvis Sportsmanship Foundation, and you might remember the Little League boy over the summer that got hit in the head, and then he went out and hugged the pitcher during the Little League World Series. Well, it went viral, and that kiddo, his mother is a very good friend of mine, and we have, in the city of Norman, we have launched the Jarvis Sportsmanship Foundation, where we are going to be raising scholarship money for underprivileged children and providing them sporting equipment and opportunities for camps and whatnot. And that's one nonprofit that I've founded. Another one I'm very proud of is 22 Shenanigans. I don't know if you can see my shirt here. This one I'm very proud of. It's very meaningful to me. In 2016, I lost my brother that was a combat veteran and a United States Marshal to suicide after PTSD. So we've done some really good work with those suffering from PTSD, and we've done some good work to keep people on this planet. And it's very dear to me, and I think it's going to become a very relevant topic in this city very quickly. And it's a big deal, and it's something that I think that you should be on the lookout for some of the issues that we have here at the city with the way we treat PTSD. I think there's some big things that need to change here in the city. Be on the lookout for that. There's some media reports today. There's some more coming, I've been told. There's some not good things happening in our city when it comes to PTSD. And I really hope that we can take the actions to correct that. Thank you.
Councilmember?
Yes, I just want to say that last Friday, that art walk was amazing. It was very busy. In line with art, we have a One Mashup, which is the Norman Arts Council annual fundraiser, and that is on March 25th. Also last week, we had Neighborhood Alliance Neighborly Normanites, and that was a pretty successful event. Very overrepresented by Ward 4, so hopefully the next time we do it, we have some more wards out there. March 25th, we also have a Center City Form-Based Code walking tour that we plan to do. It's from 9:30 to 11:30. We'll start at Neighborhood Jam. I'll be posting event information on Facebook and Instagram. And I also want to echo kudos to our transit team. Thank you.
Councilmember Tortorella?
You know what? I want to give thanks to city staff. Ever since the tornado or that night of the tornado, there are so many people that helped out. Ward 5 stepped up. Everyone helped each other. They're out there at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with chainsaws. But you know what? The heroes in the city, the staff, they make the things work too as well. So I want to call out Mr. Pyle. You know, you have done a lot of work. You've answered a lot of phone calls on my behalf. And I want to say thank you for all you've done for the city and for the staff and to make sure that we stay focused on what matters the most. I appreciate you. Sean O'Leary, again, your streets, the debris pickup, it's going on schedule. Everyone's happy about it. I appreciate the phone calls you've taken from me as well and answering all those questions and just let you know that people have seen what you've done. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your help. Chris Mattingly, where you at, Chris? You know, taking my calls on Saturdays, man, about questions about debris pile up and how do we separate things here and clarifying thoughts that are out there in the field to make your job easier, to make our job easier and get the cleanup done as quickly as possible. Chief Foster, I know you're out there. Your officers out there that morning, I ran into many of them that morning and directing traffic and helping the door-to-door search, and this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is what makes Norman so special in everyone's heart. A couple of announcements, that was just thanks. Private roads, we got the approval to pick up storm-related debris on private roads. I'll post that on the website. I think we'll be announcing the process and the procedures in about a week. Is that correct?
Before the end of the week, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, you had a hand in that too. I wasn't at the meeting today, but thank you for siding with us and siding with the city of Norman. Ward 5, it's rural, and we have a lot of trees out, and that was, thank you.
That was a good way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So other than that, I'll give it to you.
Councilmember?
All the things I could say. I'll be reaching out to Ward 6 very soon to talk to you about budget season coming up. I'm going to ask Mr. O'Leary, to start pricing for some sidewalks on 12th Street coming up and seeing anything else that we need. Other than that, no more comments.
Councilmember?
Thank you. I also do want to encourage everybody to attend or watch the Community Planning and Transportation Committee the fourth Thursday of every month at 4 o'clock here at City Hall. As Councilmember Schuler was talking about, we discuss and get updates on transit projects, road construction projects. We get the transit ridership report every month from staff. We get, like I said, updates on the route changes that we're anticipating, the construction of the new transit hub, which was an abandoned bank drive-through on Porter. If you haven't seen it, definitely drive by and check it out. So if you're interested at all in things like public transit and road construction projects, sidewalks, anything infrastructure related like that, you're welcome to attend the committee meeting or watch it a live stream on YouTube, the City of Norman's YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, anything like that, feel free to email any of us, your council member, or you can email me as the chair of the committee, and we'll be sure that we take up those questions and get answers on the record for them. Also would, in that same vein, thank our transit staff for all the work they do. We took over a public transit system almost 4 years ago that the university had been running for over 40 years. And it was not of what I would describe as an easy transition. It took an act of Congress and a governor's signature because of federal funding being involved and all sorts of complicated things. And it was something that hadn't been done, at least that anybody on our staff could find anywhere else in the United States in the last several decades, transitioning an existing established public transit system from one operating entity to a different one. And so it was something that we felt at the time was necessary, and if the city had not stepped in and done that, then it was very likely that public transit in Norman would have disappeared completely outside of the campus routes. So in a city this size, the third largest city in the state, we do have a lot of people that do rely on public transit to get to work, to get to school. And so I felt at the time, and the council agreed, that we should take over that system and keep it operating
and that it would give us an opportunity actually to make changes to it to improve how it serves the rest of Norman outside of the campus area. So it was a great opportunity, I think, and I think we're starting to see the results of that now as we move forward with these new route plans and new transit hub. And so again, Community Planning and Transportation Committee meeting every fourth Thursday at 4 p.m. if those things are of interest to you. And then I would also encourage everybody to, we've got a ribbon cutting next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the next Saturday at Reeves Park for what I would call phase 1 of Reeves Park, Norman Forward Initiative project for the new T-ball fields there that will go into use immediately, I assume. So I know a lot of kids are waiting in anticipation to get on those new fields. I'm excited that we've got them finished. They look very nice. I've gotten many compliments from people that have been out there and said, those new fields just look amazing. And so, and I agree, and would encourage anybody that's interested to attend that ribbon cutting. And then we also have, nearing completion, the new multimodal trail between Jenkins and Classen along Constitution. For the first time ever, there will be a continuous ADA-compliant multimodal path that connects those two areas together, including the railroad crossing. And if you drive down the Constitution Railroad crossing, BNSF does have the equipment and the pieces on the side of the road ready to replace the entire crossing. I get a lot of questions about that one. It's in very bad shape. It has been for a while, but it is going to get fixed here pretty soon, and it will have the new pedestrian crossing along with it. So very excited about both of those projects in Ward 7 getting done. And then also, last thing, we want to encourage everybody to be aware that we have been discussing another water rate election, and it's something that is of the utmost importance. And I think water is our most precious resource. It has been nearly 9 years since the last time a water rate increase was approved by voters, and we've only had 2 water rate increases since 1999. So you probably will not, and I'll say this all the time, you'll hear me, you probably will not find another city in the whole United States that has raised their rates so infrequent. So just encourage everybody to stay aware of that issue, and encourage my colleagues as we're talking to our constituents about other issues that we do our best to educate and answer questions that everybody may have about that upcoming proposal as well. Thank you.
Last Saturday, out at the soccer fields, we had the demonstration of a game called Beep Ball, B-E-E-P. What that is visually impaired people who play baseball, and they're pretty good at it. And it's amazing that we're going to sit down there from July 27th to August 6th and have the World Series for Beep Ball going on. And I think it's an amazing thing, both as an example to children who are visually impaired to have something to aspire to, as well as getting these adults out. And it's just been a wonderful group of people to work with. I encourage you to put that on your calendar from July 27th to August 6th, and at least go out and see a game. They are amazing at what they do. It's a lot tougher. Obviously, it's tough enough to play by itself, but that's just something, and it's typical of what staff does for us. Parks and Recs puts on something like this. We're cleaning up all kinds of materials and debris and those kinds of things. We're keeping things running. And I join with Councilmember Tortorello in thanking staff for what they do. Okay, next item is the consent docket. I need a motion, please, to place items 3 through 12 on the consent docket.
So moved.
I have a motion and second on the floor is to place items 3 through 12 on the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to place items 3 through 12 on the consent docket passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent docket.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. I have a motion and second. Are there any comments from council regarding any item on the consent docket? Hearing none. The motion to approve the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to approve the consent docket passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 13. A public hearing to consider substantial amendment 1 to contract K 212277, the second-year action plan and rescue plan, allocation plan, and budget appropriations as outlined in the staff report. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion on the floor is to open the public hearing. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast. Open the public hearing passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll recognize Lisa Craig, Grants Manager, to make the presentation.
Y'all are probably tired of seeing me. Get myself set here. Okay. Mayor and Council, Lisa Craig, CDBG Grants Manager. The material I'm going to present is what was presented at the February 28th study session. The material has been out for public comment since then. We have received no public comments. It'll remain open until next Monday for public comments. So, okay, the home ARP, this is, again, very, very regulatory heavy, and the slides are available on the website. And so I'm just going to go through this and address any questions you may have. So the home ARP funding that the city received was part of the American Rescue Plan. It's very similar to the ARPA funds that the city of Norman received, with the exception that instead of going through the Department of Treasury, it went through HUD, so they had to put their own little twist on it. And so what we were required to do was to go through an allocation process. The Federal Register for this was 97 pages long, and if you can't sleep, I recommend you try reading it. The city of Norman actually received these funds as part of a formula allocation because we are a participating jurisdiction for the home program. We are scheduled to receive a little over $1.5 million. And with this allocation plan, we were required to go through an extensive consultation and public participation process, develop a needs assessment and gaps analysis, establish the home ARP activities we would like to pursue, and with those, go ahead and set some housing goals for that. And then within that, there are this little twist called preferences and referral methods that I'll go into a little bit later. So the process, back in December of 2021, HUD requested that all of the entities that were receiving home ARP funds go ahead and claim their 5% of their administration funds. So council enacted a contract, and we put $78,000 in the bank to help with the preparation of this. I can tell you that over the last 18 months, we've pretty much spent all that in staff time in order to prepare the nice weighty tome we have here that's for your consideration. Where we are right now is we have prepared the allocation plan, and because the funding is coming from HUD with the 2021 funding, we have to go back and amend our annual action plan for 2021, which is why that's the way HUD likes to do things. So I gave up trying to figure that out years ago. And so then next, after, if this is approved and submitted to HUD, and they approve it, they have 45 days to review and approve it. They can send it back for more information, or they can approve it as is. At that point, we will start to really develop the projects that we have identified. So for tonight, this is simply telling HUD, this is the process we went through. Based on the data that we had, this was the recommendation we have for the best use of these funds. And then HUD actually gave us a little bit more time than the city ARPA funds. This has till September 30th, 2030 to have all of the funds expended. So what we did in developing the plans, we had a consultation, we did a needs assessment, determined the appropriate activities, and when I say we, this was staff and through the consultation process with many of our partners, the Continuum of Care, the Housing Authority, United Way, the VA, and then we determined some very specific requirements for those activities. And through this all, we had this open public participation process. And then tonight is the actual certification of this by the council. So the consultation included, as I said, the Continuum of Care, different homeless and domestic violence service providers, Veterans Administration groups, the Housing Authority, different public agencies like DHS that address the needs of the qualifying populations, and the public-private organizations that address fair housing, Metro Fair Housing, persons with disabilities. And so this was a combination. We had an online survey, me picking up the phone, calling people, going and talking to people, and lots of virtual meetings with these groups. So what we came up with is, most of you remember that about a year ago, we completed the home-based strategic plan to end homelessness. And so the data that was collected as part of that 18-month process, we went and refreshed that data and brought it up to date. Then we dug a little bit deeper with other studies and things that we have done in the past 18 months or so with the consolidated plan, the action plan. We had new census data that we were able to look at, the different point in time data. And so we determined from that the needs and the gaps for the populations that were identified. So with the home funds that we receive each year, primarily those funds, as I said, is a formula allocation, and it's for affordable housing. And it is really nuts and bolts kind of stuff. With the home funds, they actually kind of put an extra little twist on there that in addition to just serving a low-income population or a moderate-income population, they pulled out these qualifying populations, and they have 4 qualifying populations: homeless, at risk of homeless, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, and then this nice little catch-all that says other populations. What that really says is that is households at or below 30% of median income that don't meet one of these other 3 criteria. So with eligible activities, they also broadened, while they narrowed the focus of who you needed to assist, they broadened what you can do. Production or preservation of affordable housing, that's by right within the home program. Tenant-based rental assistance, that is by right in the home program. Then they added supportive services for homeless prevention services and housing counseling. That is only for the home ARP, as well as a purchase and development of a non-congregate shelter. That is not similar to a friend's house. That is a congregate shelter. A non-congregate shelter, you're talking a hotel-type facility where everybody has their own private room and services. And then also nonprofit operating and capacity building that is limited to just these funds. So as we went through this process, we looked at this and made some determinations that we looked at the HMIS data, the home-based study. We looked at, this is one-time funding, and what we do with these funds needs to have a continuing revenue stream for ongoing operations and maintenance. So we looked at additional funding that could be identified. And then we looked at the prioritization that we could utilize for the clients that would be accessing these projects. So under rental housing, what we have looked at is permanent supportive housing was called out in the home-based plan. It has been identified by the Continuum of Care, by all of the homeless service providers. And what that is permanent housing to where the client actually has a lease. It is a housing first, low barrier type of housing to where once the client is housed, then supportive services are brought to help maintain the housing stability. Through the consultation process that we ran some numbers and looked at some other projects similar that had been funded, and we estimate that we can construct 12 units of permanent supportive housing and bring in the supportive services for that. Consultation with the Housing Authority, they've committed to providing project-based rental assistance for this project, and that will assist in the ongoing operational funding once it is opened. Tenant-based rental assistance, very similar to a Section 8 voucher. We are already providing that with our regular home allocation, so we did not see the need to double down with that. The funding that we have is adequate for that currently. Supportive services, as I said, the clientele that will be housed in these units will need some wraparound services to help maintain that housing stability. And so we chose to carve off part of the capital funds to be able to assist with clients that will be in those units. Non-congregate shelter. I think we all agree that that would be a wonderful addition. The problem is that there's not enough money. $1.5 million is not enough. We have looked at several purchases over the last year or so. And coupled with that, because that is not permanent housing, there is no ongoing subsidy to help operate it once that comes to be. In our preliminary discussions, both with the Robinson Street project and the hotel by the mall, I can't think of what it was called. Part of the process that we had talked about with that was being able to access these funds to help with this with the supportive services for that. And as both those projects went by the wayside, we felt that it was important to put the permanent supportive housing with the services within this application. Nonprofit operating and capacity building. While this is an identified need, we feel that it should be done by other funding sources such as United Way, Sarkey's Foundation, something like that. So here's what we came up with. The ARP production goals, we are predicting that we can do 12 units of permanent supportive housing with a preference of Category 1 homeless, meaning literally homeless, with a subpopulation of chronic homeless, meaning that you have been homeless for 1 year or more, or 4 more times in the last 3 years with a total length of 1 year. I always have to think about that. And you have a diagnosed disabling condition. So it's the length of time homeless plus the disabling condition. And then there was an option with these funds that you could actually work and provide refinancing to existing projects. We took that off the table and did not have that within our plan. So as I said, the preference is where you take a qualifying population and basically they get bumped up on a waiting list if there is one. And so Category 1 homeless, chronically homeless, we did not put a limitation. To be perfectly honest, I really don't understand what that is. I think it is when like a New York City or something has like $50 million and they're doing lots of projects that they can kind of carve things like that. We have no limitations. The method of prioritization, they can be made from multiple sources for placement, the continuum of care, the coordinated case management, a DV provider, DHS, other entities. We'll utilize a waiting list and the priority will be based upon length of time homeless. So, a little over $1.5 million. 1.226908 will actually be the nuts and bolts of production. Supportive services for $100,000. Program and administration for $234,000. The program and administration seems a little heavy, but you have to realize that this has to be monitored, such as the City of Norman ARPA funds. Very heavy on reporting back to HUD until 2030. And so not only will it take a lot of staff time to get this thing up and going, once it's up and going, there's lots of reporting that has to go back and forth. So the next steps, public comment until March 20th. We'll gather all the public comment, and we'll bundle it all up, send it to HUD by March 31st for their review. Then once it has been reviewed and approved, we will discuss an RFP process for how we're going to move forward with the actual project, with having all the activities completed by 2030. One of the things I didn't mention was, you guys are familiar with DeBruler Incorporated that's assisting us in possibly pursuing a tax credit project, that they have been very helpful in just discussions with this, and they were able to track down some costs for some similar projects that have been done recently that really helped. But they also mentioned that this specific type of project lends itself for leveraging with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as well as the Federal Home Loan Bank. And it is their impression that we could probably just about double our capital funds, so that while we set the bar at 12, that we could get 20 or so out of this. Really don't want to go over about 24. That's kind of the rule of thumb for a facility of this type. And so we'll keep that in mind as we're chasing after other money. Do y'all have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. In just the processing streams, is a difference between single adults that are coming in and families, moms with kids? Is there a different way of processing?
Well, this will most likely will be single-room occupancy units,
Okay.
very small units, or a small one-bedroom. This is primarily, you do not see hardly any chronic families that have been homeless for a year or more with a disabling condition, because there are so many more resources available for families than the chronic single population. So this will be single. It wouldn't be unheard of to have a couple, but no children. So,
Thanks.
okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments regarding this item. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
Heidi Smith?
I know a lot of you. I am with Thunderbird Clubhouse. Excuse me. About a year ago, we got the honor of becoming the collaborative applicant for the Cleveland County Continuum of Care. As Lisa likes to say, the City of Norman had been the collaborative applicant since statehood, and then they all decided that you didn't want to do that anymore for some very good reasons. And there was a call for an agency to step up and become the administrative lead for our continuum. And we did that. We've seen many changes that have happened in homelessness funding as a result of COVID funds. Our agency, Thunderbird Clubhouse, went from administrating around $125,000 worth of funding for homelessness. Over the last 3 years, that budget has been somewhere between $325,000 and $350,000 per year because of the housing crisis that COVID has exacerbated. Money like that doesn't come along every day. Money like this home funding is really once in a lifetime. The ability to have enough funds to actually build a facility that will meet a met need. You asked about, well, what about children, families? Well, the thing is, you put a family in something bigger than a one-bedroom unit. Mm-hmm. That's why this is important. One-bedroom units are difficult to find in Norman, Oklahoma. There's an affordable housing crisis in Norman that this council has been talking about for a couple years. Take that and magnify it when you're talking about low-income affordable housing. And this is what we're saying. People who no longer engage in the system because they've been homeless for years, because they have barriers to being able to sign a lease. They've been evicted multiple times. There's lots of reasons. This gives the city of Norman the ability to say to those people, we know you never believed you could have a home, but with this money, we can build some units that will be in our community in perpetuity for people who thought that they had disqualified themselves from ever having a home. And it's free money that the federal government is saying, we got a pot, we just need you to tell us how you want to use it. I would urge you, please, this is something our community desperately needs for people who have lived here for a long time and do live here. Thank you.
Karen Canavan.
Hi, Karen Canavan. I'm the Executive Director with the Norman Housing Authority. Wow, Heidi, that was passionate. I think you said almost all of it. I just want to kind of go into a little bit more on the supportive housing or the supportive services. Several years ago, I don't know if you recall, McKenzie Gardens opened up over there off of Griffin Memorial property, and it is housing for people with mental health issues. And I was delighted to be on staff when we opened up that building and leased in the first occupants. A lot of our homeless population have mental health issues. They're not going to transition until we get them housed. When we moved, there was a couple of gentlemen that I remember very, very much that moved into McKenzie Gardens. They had been actually living out at Lake Thunderbird for several years. And we leased them in, and their questions were, how often do I vacuum to keep my home clean? How often do I need to clean my toilet? Oh, and by the way, I have a brand new toilet. Nobody's ever used it before. They were wonderful to work with, but they didn't know how to maintain a home or how to follow a lease. Other question, what happens if I'm late on my rent? Well, because we had supportive programs going on, it's we'll call you and remind you. We'll let you know. You need to vacuum once a week, at least. You know, those types of things. So they learned how to take care of their homes, and they did a marvelous job. One still lives there. He serves on a nonprofit board. Every time I see him, he hugs me, says, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for my lovely home. I don't know what I did to deserve it. But it's the services that go along with the housing component that is absolutely critical. And this council, as Heidi was saying, there's been quite a bit of money since COVID and quite a bit of emphasis on homelessness. I've been in the housing industry for over 30 years. And, you know, with each election cycle, initiatives change. I am so happy with this council's current initiative and interest in serving our homeless population. By voting yes on this, you're going to set this into motion to where it will actually happen. It's no longer Lisa Craig and I sitting over in the corner going, hey, there's a piece of property over here. What do you think would happen if we tried to buy this? And where do you think we could get the money? And who can we get to do this? It has been ongoing for many, many years. So this council now has the opportunity to earmark funds for that and to move forward and push that initiative to make this happen. I truly urge you to do it. We absolutely need it. Norman needs it. And I think this is a very compassionate council. And again, please vote yes for it. Any questions on that? Thank you.
Stephen Ellis. Is he
I
here?
don't see him.
I don't see Cindy either. He signed up. Evan?
1400 Garfield Avenue, Ward 7. I think that this is great. It's a very worthy venture. Let's go for it.
That's all, Mayor.
That's all. Are there any final comments from council regarding this? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Motion to close the public hearing passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve or reject the contract amendment and budget appropriation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The motion on the floor is to approve the contract amendment and budget appropriation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All vote. Motion passes by a vote of 7-1. Voting against, Mayor Hykala.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 14, a resolution amending the Norman 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan to remove property located at 1300 West Lindsay Street from the commercial designation. Problem? Okay, I'll read it again. Item number 14, a resolution amending the Norman 2025 Land Use Plan and Transportation Plan to remove property located at 1300 West Lindsay Street from the commercial designation and high-density residential designation and place the same in the commercial designation. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there a representative for the applicant to make a presentation?
There is. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, this one is pretty straightforward, I think. Here we go. Yep, thank you, Bryce. Okay, we are in Ward 2, on West Lindsay Street, 1300 West Lindsay. This is a property that has long been basically an old house converted into an office right there. The property is currently zoned CO, it's a commercial office space. The proposal tonight is to take this 2.19 acre tract and turn it into a SPUD, basically C1 zoning in general nature. This is the site plan, and quickly I want to orient you, north is to the right of the site plan. So Lindsay Street, we normally have these vertical, but Lindsay Street is on the right side of the page here. Now, this is the site plan that was shown at Planning Commission. Unanimous approval at Planning Commission, no negativity that we really heard much about. But there was a comment from one of the commissioners at Planning Commission that they would like to see the building more forward to the street. And so after Planning Commission, and again, this was unanimously approved, but with that comment of a thought basically put to us, after Planning Commission, we're very appreciative of Councilmember Schuler and Councilmember Peacock, who met with us and the applicant and started working on possibilities to make that reality, to bring that building a little bit closer. So tonight, we're actually here with a slightly different site plan per those comments and that work, and we appreciate that very much, Councilmember Schuler, that resulted in this. So the building is now pushed quite a bit closer to Lindsay Street, and the changes are basically pushing that building closer to Lindsay and changing the orientation of the parking to be angled parking. When you have angled parking, the parking is more compressed, so it's not as deep of a stall. And so we were able to do that and eliminate one row up front. And so also this took the parking down. So the parking is down from 64 spaces down to 56 spaces. So a pretty significant change there as well. And it is basically one-way travel around this building, so that's sort of tight to the building in a one-way travel aspect with the angled parking around it. So we think it's a better site plan. We appreciate the council members' help on it, and that's really the main change from Planning Commission. So real quick to summarize that, shifted the building closer, reduced the parking. We did add into the SPUD itself tree preservation language. Now you'll see some of these trees are already there, these large trees in the upper left of the site. And we will be grubbing those higher. They're already very mature trees, so we can cut those up vertically so we have visibility into the retail site and not harm those trees. So we're able to do that quite a bit. And we did add a commitment, no problem, at this one exit space. We will post signage or some striping that encourages traffic to turn right only. We need to still have that one access, but that's how we'll handle that. Just one other point on this, we're not changing anything at the back of this site. When we had pre-development meeting, that was kind of important for neighbors, that they wanted that to just be kind of the way it was, and so we're honoring that. There's no changes to the back of the site. You can see that's the site plan that was submitted, and that's the site plan as it is. So there's no change to the rear part of the site. Access, we do have another access point. There's an existing alley on the east side that connects to this. We're able to utilize that, which will be very helpful as you leave this site. Stormwater, we're actually doing some tree wells. You see sort of the yellow outlines there, tree wells and bio-detention swales. We're using some LID and some BMPs on this site. We're able to do that more and more in small aspects on some of these small site plans, and I think it's pretty helpful. Staff report was clean. They reminded us that the 2017 streetscape project was created to help spark redevelopment just like this, so I think that's a helpful comment. Full cutoff lighting, no access to Rebecca Lane, existing green space between the Rebecca Lane and the building protected. So that's really the summary of it. It was unanimous at Planning Commission. We have no protests filed. We haven't heard any protest in speaking about it, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have. Thank you very much.
Questions from council? Councilmember Schuler?
Yeah, so we're taking all of these together with this one presentation, just making sure. So can you talk a little bit more about the zoning? I just want people to understand that what portions are zoned CO, and then that small strip on the backside that is R3. Because I think that was something that caught my attention initially, but really want everyone to understand how much is really R3, and is that actually a viable option?
Yeah, it's not very viable at all. Let me see if I can find it. You can see, maybe this is the best way to show it. If you see a little dash line right there, again, north is to the right, so Rebecca Lane is on the left here. There's a little dash line running through there. This site is currently zoned all CO, except for that little left sliver is R3. I don't know how, I don't know why, but that's the existing zoning. So when you read that this was zoned partially R3, realistically, it really wasn't. You couldn't build anything in that. In fact, it's an easement, so it's meaningless for R3.
So one of the things that we are approving here, can you talk about, I guess there was concern about access from Rebecca Lane onto the site property. Can you talk about how you're gonna manage that? And then there was talk of like a sidewalk on the back. So can you explain what's happening?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the site right now from Rebecca Lane, that's maybe the best imagery from the overhead. It is a heavy area of trees, really heavy, and no access. There's fencing, trees, there's no sidewalk there, and the neighbor that came to pre-development basically likes it that way. Didn't want that to change. And I think I have a shot right there. So that's Rebecca Lane. And so what we heard from the neighborhood, and we're fine with it, is just leave that alone. We don't want to break that up. They don't want traffic, access, anything coming through that site. It never has before, and they want it to stay that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand that because, you know, this is the only parcel that will be zoned all the way through to Rebecca Lane Commercial, where all of the other frontage doesn't kind of come all the way back. It's just on Lindsay Street.
Right.
So I just wanted to make clarification for the public that that's how it's going to continue to be maintained.
And one other point on that, Councilmember, is we always remind you of PUDs are site plan specific. So as you can see, that's the site plan that's approved with this. With nothing approved to be done on the south side, we could not build anything back there without coming back through the process.
And then can you talk just a little bit more about the stormwater and just explain what that dashed line is in the center of the property and what the drainage is, because I know that it drains multiple ways on this property.
Correct.
And how we are, I guess, mitigating the north side of the property, because I think the south side with us doing no changes doesn't change the way that that's going to flow.
Correct. And I think Steve Rollins is here if we want to speak more deeply about it, but I'll do my non-engineered usual, try to attempt at it. This line right down the middle that you're talking about, Councilmember, is the dash line of the ridge line, if you will. Water sheds that way from that line and sheds to the right. So as you said, there's no changes proposed in the back at all. That building is already there. So there is no additional impervious, nothing. So whatever drainage is happening on the back side is unchanged. On the front side, the drainage goes to the front detention area. If I could pull this over, front detention area, which is along the street up here, a long, narrow detention area. And that's where you can see tree wells and bioswales. And so that's how the drainage system really works.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from council? All right. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments regarding this item. Madam Clerk, are there any?
Evan?
Evan?
Okay, Evan Dunn, 1400 Garfield Avenue, Ward 7. I think I don't have any problems with this. I appreciate, Sean's presentation, this does point out to me that there is a deficiency in terms of the city's sensibilities about how the cityscape should be. That should have, the site plan should have had a requirement for fruit trees, and like Sean mentioned, the LID, low impact development. There are design principles that we could require for every future plan that comes to Planning Commission. So, Stephen, I would like to be on that commission. I don't know how, I'm not sure who has to approve it, but I think that changing the ordinances to promote low fuel usage, maximal productivity, that's a direction that I think is the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Evan. That's it? All right. Councilmember Schuler?
Yes, so I want to just say that I appreciate the applicant being willing to, sit down and kind of talk through changes and things that I was concerned about and thinking about what this property is going to look like on Lindsay. This is the only greenfield site that we have left on that corridor. And as Sean mentioned, that we are really looking towards redevelopment and rethinking of what the streetscape is going to look like. And it is opportunities like this where we showcase a developer being willing to maintain existing mature trees, writing that directly into the PUD language to make sure that we are keeping those. Originally, the first site plan that I saw, the back half of this lot did have concrete and more development on it. And so being willing to keep that open and kind of clear of development was something that was really important. I also think that being willing to talk about traffic, the flow of traffic around the site and onto Lindsay, even though a traffic plan was not, or a traffic study was not required because of this corridor already being heavily commercial, I think was really important. So I'm looking forward to approving this, and I think that it could be the way of, I guess, the future and thinking about bringing our buildings closer to the street and making Lindsay an even more walkable destination as we, think about it being the gateway to our university. So thanks for all of the work that y'all did on this.
Councilmember Holman? Nope, pass. All right. Nobody else. Motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to adopt the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 15, ordinance 0222322, upon second and final reading, rezoning property located at 1300 West Lindsay Street from CO Suburban Office Commercial District in R3 Multifamily Dwelling District to SPUD Simple Planned Unit Development District. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the ordinance on second reading, section by section.
Adopt.
Second.
This is a companion item to the previous item. If council would like to entertain the amended narrative and site plan, do so. Is there a motion?
Do we have, motion to amend with the updated site plan and SPD narrative?
I have a motion and second. Any further council comments on the amendment? Excellent. Any further public comments on the amendment? Any final comments from council on the amendment? Nobody's talking. This is wonderful. Motion on the floor is to approve the amended narrative and site plan as submitted. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to approve the amendment, the amended site plan and narrative passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments from council in the item? Good. Any further comments from the public to the item? Hearing none. Motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on second reading as amended. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast to adopt the ordinance upon second reading as amended, passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the ordinance on final reading as amended.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on final reading as amended. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast to adopt the ordinance upon final reading as amended, passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 16. Just a second. Item number 16, a resolution granting a partial exemption from current standards relating to proposed historic berry farms with the advancement of the short form plat process located at 1300 West Lindsay Street. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and second. This is a companion item to the previous two items. Are there any further council comments on this item? Are there any further public comments on the item? Hearing none. The motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been to adopt the resolution, passes unanimously.
Excellent, thank you. Item number 17, a resolution granting a partial exemption from current standards relating to proposed Lot 1, Block 6, a replat of Block 6, Oak Ridge Edition, with the advancement of the short form. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there a representative for the applicant who'd like to make a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. I'm Mohammed Khan with SMC Consulting, 815 West Main, 73106. We don't have slides, but I took the liberty of making copies of the same packet, what you have in front of you, perhaps on a larger scale. So hopefully it'll be easy to see. I'm representing the property owner at 902 Hoover Street. It's in Ward 4. The location of this property is at the southwest corner of South Flood and Hoover Avenue. We are requesting to proceed with short form plat, as in order to require proceeding with short form plat, we'll be requesting an exemption to your standard subdivision regulation. So in lieu of doing the preliminary plat and the final plat, we would like to request proceed with the short form plat process. As part of this request, we are also requesting certain exemptions to the current subdivision regulations, such as sidewalk and curb and gutter on this street. So perhaps I'd just like to kind of give you a brief intro of this item here. This subdivision has been established since 1940s, and the existing street is built without curb and gutter in a kind of rural setting established there. There are multiple properties along this stretch of the road there, and the existing utilities, roadway self, and drainage, those are functioning properly. So in order to request for these exemptions for the subdivision regulations, we had our professional engineer with our company go up there and analyze the existing infrastructure there, such as water line, sewer line, storm sewer, if there is any, or overland flow for drainage purposes there. So the exhibit, the packet you have has a certification from our professional engineer that certifies that existing infrastructure is in good shape and will not compromise the safety, health, and welfare of the adjacent property owner, including the pedestrian activity, what may take place along this road there. So one of the first exhibit you have in front of you is kind of labeled as Exhibit 1. It's a plat of the subject property, and that shows the frontage along the Hoover Street. The property itself was replatted as part of the Block 6 in 1940s, and since then it has been established and functioned correctly. The second exhibit, what you have, which is really more focus of what I was going to just convey to you, the exhibit number 2 is really a utility atlas map. It shows that there is an existing 8-inch water line currently along north side of Hoover Street. And then it's a loop water system, so it should have adequate pressure and flow to serve the existing property, as well as what we are proposing as part of the short form plat to subdivide the existing property into 2 lots. So there will be an additional 1 more house as part of this development, but our assessment is that the existing water line system has adequate flow and the pressure, because it's a loop water system and it's an 8-inch water line. Traditionally, in the older neighborhoods, you see 6-inch line, but we are fortunate to have an 8-inch water line. Kudos to the city staff. There are fire hydrant placed with immediate vicinity of the site. So the fire protection services, if in case something happens, then they'll be immediately able to tap into those fire hydrants for any firefighting capabilities there. Along the alley on the south side of staying on the same exhibit number 2, it shows that there is an 8-inch sanitary sewer line along the south side of the property, and that sewer line, 8-inch sewer line, will be able to serve the additional tap will be needed for this additional house over there. The existing house itself is going to be removed, and as part of this subdivide, there will be 2 houses, but 1 house which was already there, so we're just adding 1 more house as part of this plat there. I don't have the aerial, but I'll probably would like to kind of go over the drainage part. That's an exhibit number 3. It's an aerial map with the kind of contours or lay of the land or slope of the ground is shown over there. So there's an approximately, flood runs north and south. So there's a 1.5 acres of overland flow encroaches on the flooded street. And then it kind of slopes in southerly direction. And when it reaches to the intersection of Hoover and Flood, it makes a right-hand turn and go in westerly direction along Hoover till it hits the Pickard Avenue, which is on the west end or the point of terminus for Hoover Street there. If you're looking at the street view, and those photographs are provided in that package we just distributed, it shows the street view. There are several pictures of the street view. You'll notice that the street itself sits low and the adjacent property on both sides sits higher. The purpose of me saying it is that in case of, because there is no on-site storm sewer system there are no curb inlets, all you have is roadside drainage ditch. So having a street at the lower level, it helps you to convey the flow of water and not worried about adjacent property getting flooded, because there is almost like a 2-3 feet of drop from almost finished floor to the street level there. That increases your conveyance capacity of the street there under current condition. So that's the benefit of doing it. So having said that, with the water line adequate, sanitary sewer adequate, fire hydrants are available, which serve the fire protection services there. We feel like that the stormwater conveyance in current condition is functioning properly. There are no signs of erosion or anything. This neighborhood is established already there. So we like to request this exemption in lieu of building the curb and gutter and the sidewalk there. I have the property owner, Mr. Tom Bevel, here, happy to answer any question for you, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any comments from council or questions from council? Councilmember Holman?
Just one real quick about the On this original plat, it shows Flood Street going through. That has, and kind of like where the driveway, I guess, would be, that has been closed, though, that, I know it doesn't exist there in reality, but on paper, it has been a closed-off section of the street.
Right, yeah. So the right-of-way was, if I can answer that part.
Please.
Yeah. So the right-of-way itself was 60 feet wide. The west right-of-way became part of this lot, so that makes it lot around 125 feet. That's a good point, because subdivision regs require that the minimum frontage has to be 50 feet. So with the addition of the vacated right-of-way, that qualified it to apply for a subdivide here.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Grant?
I don't know if this question's for you or city staff, but I went to the area earlier and I did see the rest of the neighborhood was not curbed or guttered. And if we did demand it, it would probably be infrastructure that connects to nothing, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Thank you for making that point.
That's it for me.
Councilmember Schuler?
Yeah, I had the same question that Councilmember Holman had, so already addressed about the original plat.
Okay. Thank you, sir. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments regarding this item. Madam Clerk, are there any evidence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I don't have a problem with this. Again, it's just an issue in which we don't have the ordinances. We don't require the same types of designs that I think we need to. And I hope it goes well, you know, depending on what happens. Good luck.
Thank you.
I have a question, I guess, on amendment. It does seem silly to put in curb and gutter on a street that hasn't had curb and gutter since the 40s, that works perfectly well. Why are we doing that?
That's why he's asking for it.
Okay. Oh, I didn't read down. Keep on reading. Okay. No, I don't have an exemption on here. Oh, got it. Sorry. Never mind. But at least we agree on that, Mr. Khan. So, are there any final comments from council? I'll keep my mouth shut. Okay. The motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution. Council members, you may cast your votes.
I'll vote. Motion to adopt the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next item is miscellaneous comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address city council. Due to Open Meeting Act regulations, council is not able to participate in discussion during miscellaneous comments. Remarks should be directed as a whole and limited to 3 minutes or less. Do you have anybody signed up?
Mr. Dunn.
Mr. Dunn, are you going to sing us a song?
Okay, so earlier we were talking about this water rate increase. What if we coupled that, because there's going to be pain. People like to hold on to their money. What if we'll just go right up to it. Okay. So what if we have a gardening bond that we sell at the same time? We say, here's the water rate increase, but we give you some type of rebate if you put in a garden. And we can have, just like we have, traffic, security guards drive around looking for people parked incorrectly and whatnot. We could have people who signed up for it, and then we could go in the spring to make sure that they're prepping. We could go make sure that they're harvesting or something. I would volunteer for that, okay? So that's one thing. I thought that there'd be some feedback.
Evan, why don't you just sing us the song without the guitar?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. So, all right. So this is G, then it goes to A minor 7, then it goes to C. If we sold a garden bond, people would get paid an incentive just to plant some seeds for the future. Wouldn't that be grand? Wouldn't that be finalizing a bigger plan? Maybe we can sell the bond with that water increase.
Absolutely. I expect that every 2 weeks.
All right. But it's, I think that idea, there's a latent demand, I think, for the recognition that gardeners are at the tip of the sword. They're the ones who care about the fertility of the soil. They're the ones who are reducing the size of the yards that have to be mowed. And, they reduce the amount of particulate matter that has to be inhaled. And it's improving the quality of our food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an idea, and you can steal it. You can steal that idea.
Thank you, Evan. That's it? Since we have no more miscellaneous comments, we are adjourned.